Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Danny Hernandez, Chad Big Bad Johnson, and James Gisante. Before we get started, I want to once again thank Jay Lyon for joining us last week. We had a lot of fun. His match was great last weekend, so we hope you all enjoyed that. And once again, thank you, Jay. But we got to move on really quickly to the absolute banger of a match that we all just watched on AEW's Winter is Coming. Hangman Adam Page versus Bryan Danielson for the AEW title goes a full 60 minutes on regular television to a time limit draw. I hate this. I love it and I hate it. I hate that we had another time limit draw here because we just had one with Brian and Kenny a few months back at Grand Slam. And now we're getting another time limit draw here, James. I get it, but I think having Hangman win would have been such a momentous moment.
I'm sorry, Nick. I disagree. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. First of all, I think this is without a doubt Hangman's best match ever. I've seen a lot of great Hangman matches. Maybe you can make the argument the tag team match with him and Kenny versus the Bucks is a contender for his best match, but this was his best solo outing ever. And I've been following Hangman for years, from Ring of Honor to New Japan to the stuff with Bullet Club and everything. He hit another level tonight. Like, no pun intended, but he really did finally hit full gear. And Bryan is known, going back to his Ring of Honor days, as like the OG American Dragon. He's known for having those 60-minute draws. You know, he could go like that. And at 40, it's even more impressive that he's doing it. I know a lot of people wanted Hangman to get that first win, the classic babyface retention, but I think Bryan is too hot right now, and this story has too much potential to just end it. There are still plenty more Dark Order members for Bryan to kick their head in. And we got to see a classic. Like, I don't like throwing that word around before it should really gestate, but it's the truth. I think we watched a classic tonight, and it just means there's going to be more. If this isn't even their last match, imagine what they saved for the next one. And I loved it. I think if Kenny and Bryan had a 5-star match at Grand Slam, this is without a doubt another 5-star match here.
Might even be more. If Bryan keeps going after Dark Order members, he better fight Anna at some point.
I mean, he's got to look strong. If he goes against Anna, the entire push is derailed.
That's true. And I think this is going to end up being the same thing that happened to me after Grand Slam, where I really, really hated the tie in the moment, or the time limit draw. And it's going to make sense further down the road. Like, you're absolutely right. He's going to get another shot. Bryan's going to get another shot at the title, and Hangman will eventually pick up that win, and it's going to be just as momentous, if not more. It's just that, once again, in the moment, I just wanted that so bad. And Chad, you were right there with me. I wanted that so bad for Hangman, and he just didn't get it.
Absolutely. First things first, I have to let everyone know this was my first Winter is Coming, and winter came. Pause. that shit was epic. The match was epic. I'm with Rev. I did, for that millisecond, I really, really, really wanted Hangman to get the pin. I was hyped after I saw the lariat. I was like, here we go. Classic. But still, overall, I cannot honestly complain. The match was epic. Super, super duper classic for me. Bryan looked great as always. He's debatably one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like, don't at me. Hangman looked amazing. So I'm with James in the part where I feel like this may be best out of 3 or a series later on, and then we do finally see Hangman get the pin. But other than that, I really don't care anymore. It was just a great match. I loved it. I was invested every minute.
Yeah, I mean, we do have Battle for the Belts coming up at some point. There's the move to TNT, the move from TNT to TBS in the near future as well. I believe that's January 5th. So there's a lot of opportunities, Danny, for them to have this rematch.
Yes, they can have this match at Battle for the Belts. They can have it. They could have it at Revolution, but I don't think they're going to stretch it that far. But to echo what James was saying, this is hands down Hangman's best match. I've been following Hangman for years as well. 2019, 2020, 2021, and I've just never seen anything as good as that match from Hangman Page. And I had absolutely no problems with the finish. If anything, I popped harder for the finish than if Hangman would have won, because, not gonna lie, as much as I love Hangman, I can't root against Bryan. So part of me was really like, fuck it, just let him win. I don't care. Like he's wrestling this, he's owning this match. That match was Bryan's match. He had so much of the offense in. And even at the end, when Hangman hit the buckshot, Bryan was rolling towards the ropes. So it wasn't a guaranteed pin he was going to get right there. So there was very much every chance for the match to continue if the time limit wasn't a factor. Also, good guy Bryan Danielson has been wrestling every single week leading up to this match, sometimes twice a week. So, he's got a little wear and tear, whereas obvious bad guy in the story, Hangman Page, has not wrestled since he won the title. You're like, come on. And then he was the one who was more gassed at the end of that match, because Bryan could have gone for another 30, 40 minutes and would have been fine. But in all seriousness, this match was so good, and they left so much on the table. And another reason that I am glad that there was no finish is actually something we were talking about earlier off screen, is that having someone like Bryan on the show could bring in that casual viewer or the viewer from the other side that knows Bryan, doesn't know who Hangman Page is, doesn't know who anyone on AEW is. They come in to see Bryan, they see this match, and they're like, oh my God, this is good. And, if I am a casual viewer and I'm just watching because Bryan's on the show, or like if I was watching in 2019 because Jericho was on the show, and I come in and I just see them lose right off the bat, I'm a little bit like disenfranchised. Like, oh, this is kind of this is what WWE does with these guys, is just beat them. So like, why is the show any different? So leaving everyone wanting more, leaving it inconclusive, leaving it knowing that we're not going to get our payoff yet, or we're going to get it another day, I think is a better way to not only keep the fans you already have wanting more, but to entice any new eyes you may have gotten to keep watching, to stay tuned. Because, if you're coming in on something that's kind of a finale, like this match would have been if there was a finish, it's almost like, it's like coming into a show and a season finale. It's like, well, I mean, that was good, but now it's over. So what, what do I do now? So I have absolutely no problems with this finish. Bryan's the good guy.
I also just want to say that I'm with Danny. It's impossible for me to boo against Bryan Danielson. It's not something I'm capable of doing. And when that match ended, when I heard the bell ring after the buckshot, I think I screamed so loud my neighbors heard. Like the breath just escaped my lungs, because I was like, thank God he didn't lose. And it feels so wrong to boo against Hangman. It's like when I was watching that match, like I was watching it with my girlfriend, and I said to her, I was like, oh, thank God the clock just hit midnight on Cinderella and the story's over. And I was like, we go on for another day. And they told a hell of a story. They told a hell of a story. And I want more. I want more. No matter when it comes, I want more.
You got to keep building to that first loss. Punk and Bryan, I feel like one of them's going to lose soon. I wouldn't have both of them lose within a couple of weeks of each other. So I'm glad we're drawing this out.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And AEW and Tony Khan have definitely earned my my patience and my trust with these things. I think this is literally the mark in me that wanted Hangman to get this pin right now, and you know, because you guys are right. Like the longer you draw this out, the longer you slow play it, and then eventually Hangman gets that win. It's so much better. I mean, because I'm stealing this from Reddit. Somebody said the finish was very James. You can back me up on this. Okada Kenny 2, I think it was, or one of them, where they had the time limit draw. Same thing happened where Okada hit the Rainmaker and then Kenny didn't get pinned before the time went out. So I mean, if you're gonna draw it out like they drew that out for, I think that was ended up being 4 matches. But even if you get 2 or 3 more out of this, like it's still so good.
I also want to reiterate a comment, a call that Taz made near the end of the match. And I got to say, I think it was a very important call. I don't know if it should have been said, but it's something now that was in my head. These two guys, this match elevated the world title. It's already a very important belt in my eyes. I already think it has a good amount of prestige at the moment. But this was a match that when you're like in 5 years, we're thinking, what are the best AEW world championship matches? I think this match is going to be on that list. And that's what you want out of your champion. You want somebody who's going to elevate the belt, not have the belt elevate them. And you do that with matches like this. If Hangman had beat Bryan in 20 minutes or in a half hour, it would have been awesome. And we would have all been like, yeah, I'm sure that was good. Like, yeah, Hangman, go Hangman. But I think we're going to look back at this match with a lot more shine on it because of what they were able to do, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, you're right. Damn. No, this is literally, like I said before, this is the exact same way I felt after Grand Slam. The tie is the draw is the right move. I just really wanted it.
Nick, I need to refer you to a term called edging.
I'm so sorry. Saying it.
I'm so sorry. Danny and we have another vernacular for this. You're Adaming. You're Adam Copelanding.
God.
So, it's a very tedious practice, but like all good Christians, we got to learn how to Adam Copeland.
Oh, that was so good.
I've been on the internet far too much to not know what that is. And I'm just going to, God damn it, you're still right.
How was your November?
It wasn't winter is coming. It's December came finally.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
See,
now you guys.
Now the problem is I was gonna move on to the women's match, and this is just a terrible fucking transition to the women's match.
Abort. Go to Wardlow.
Go in order of the matches. Go with Wardlow.
Yeah, let's go way hotter. Let's go with Wardlow. I mean, yeah, Wardlow match. It was a bit of a squash against Matt Seidel. But I'm still enjoying the build of Wardlow. And Chad, I know you are too. The absolute hilarity of Shawn Spears.
Yeah. The chairman is one of my favorite parts of AEW as of late. His dry humor that I would like to give to the inspiration, but it's probably him. But I think they are just I can't explain it. The dry humor is there for me. It's working. I like Wardlow. He's not bad at all. I'm cool with the build. It's always nice to see Evan Bourne. Matt Seidel. That was just for you, James. I'm sorry. I'm done.
I'm intrigued now by this thing where Wardlow continues to power bomb guys. I think, what did Excalibur call it? The concerto of power bombs or something like that. He put it some eloquent Excalibur-esque way. And the fact that he keeps doing it, much to the delight of the crowd, whereas Shawn Spears is like, no, don't stop. Like, he's had enough. Just pin the guy. And he's like, fuck you, and keeps doing it.
I like it.
Yeah, almost to like where, is he playing to the crowd in a face-like way, or is he just kind of on his own? And then Spears comes in and hits the guy with a chair because fuck you. That's why. So, I mean, James, do you think Wait, or I guess the question almost is now, when do you think they're going to turn Wardlow face? Because they're doing another slow build with him, but it's, I mean, and I guess we're edging again, but like, we're kind of getting there.
I think we're getting a lot closer to it than we ever have before. I just read an interview today. I don't know where it was said or where it was conducted, but Wardlow basically said, my relationship with MJF has always been the same as it is now. It's always been about business, and it will never be more. So the fact that these interviews are happening now, the fact that these comments are coming now, it's strategic. It has to be. So I think with those comments coming out and the subtle build that we've seen over the last few months, not even weeks, but months, I think we're getting there. I think once the MJF Punk story is told, I think we're going to really start seeing it push to the front. I'm not going to say Wardlow and MJF break up immediately after the Punk stuff, but I think that's when we're really going to get to that. Is Batista going to leave Evolution segment of Wardlow's relationship with MJF? And I love Wardlow. I think he's got all the tools to be a major star, and he just needs to break out. And I think the crowd is ready to start cheering for him too.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking up the quote here. Over on Busted Open Radio, Sirius XM, just for citation purposes. But yeah, I think you're right. Like the crowd is definitely behind Wardlow. And the more he appeases them by kicking the shit out of people, the more they're going to cheer him too. And I even think he got a little bit of a funnier side of him over on BTE when he was trying to get recruited by Silver and Reynolds there too. So there's a lot here for Wardlow, Danny, once they decide to give him the ball.
Is there, though? Like, is there a lot for him? Because I don't see, first of all I wanted to say when you threw to me was all I wanted to do is make another Edge joke, but you already covered that. So like that was most of my analysis there. No, it's okay. So someone had to do it. But I like Wardlow, and I think the slow build has been great. But I do think it has been amped up a bit in the past 4 to 6 weeks to the point where, I don't know how much longer they can Adam Copeland this situation. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, because if that's the follow-up to feuding with Punk, like, I don't want to be the person to have to follow that. And I don't think Wardlow is the person to be able to follow that. Like, I really think MJF has to move from Punk to the title. So I don't see where Wardlow fits in there. I would actually like if Wardlow was like, waited till MJF became champion and then tried to become #1 contender, and that's like a one-off TV feud match, like, or it could be a pay-per-view feud, but I can't see that main event at a pay-per-view. That's my only issue with it. So I think it would be a TV match. But Wardlow is great. I would wait as long as possible. The crowd is getting behind him, but I think almost like with Sammy, doing just a little bit longer, a little bit slower of a build, so that when he does break out, it is monstrous. Because it will be monstrous if he does it now, but I don't see how long that lasts. Where I feel like the longer they wait, the longer that lasts afterwards. But that's just me.
Yeah, I would agree, that they should obviously wait a bit longer. And I think that gives Wardlow more time to get even better in the ring, because I believe he's around 33, but like he doesn't feel incredibly polished in the ring. Like he's definitely got the skills, and he's definitely, he's going to be really good, but I don't know if he's 100% there yet. So if you keep slow playing it, then he gets better in the ring, especially facing guys like Seidel, and he gets to keep working, James, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you guys remember early AEW? I'm talking like first pay-per-view, everything. Didn't they hype him up with like a video package where he beat up a bunch of like goons on the street? He looked like he was like a vigilante or something. Like he was wearing a suit and everything. And then he just fights a bunch of like dudes out on like in like a parking lot. And like that was like the hype for this guy. I think it was for Wardlow. And
Is this all out?
it might have been.
Or not all out.
Or double or
nothing rather. Excuse me.
Yeah. And my point being for bringing that up, if it is him, which I think it is,
I will do my best to look it up.
it makes me believe that even at an early stage, AEW saw something in him, which they've been pretty on the money with these guys that they've decided to give the ball to and have them run with it. So I agree with Danny on this. I don't necessarily know Wardlow should be in that position to follow up on the Punk feud. But that's also if we're assuming that MJF wins the Punk feud. It's very possible Punk gets the win in that. I don't think so. But if Wardlow accidentally costs MJF the win, maybe that's how we get there. I don't know. I do think, though, Wardlow inadvertently costing MJF a title match against Hangman would definitely make a lot more sense into leading to that breakup, though.
So, real quick, I just wanted to say, man, Matt Seidel is such a jobber, right? Like, this is why he shouldn't have been having long match, or even have been in the ring with Punk or Bryan or people like that. Look how far he's fallen in such a short time, which I guess he really hasn't fallen that far because he's never been that high up to fall. But yeah.
I think personally, I mean, I want Chad to weigh in too, but I think this actually goes to a point you made before, Danny, here on the pod, which is how a lot of these guys get big streaks. Their win-loss record gets really padded, but they do it on shows like Dark or Elevation. And it's like, oh yeah, that's totally awesome. Matt Seidel is like 18-1, but oh wait, he's beating guys who I've never heard of before. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because the win record makes it feel more legit when they do lose to these bigger names. But if you're really like looking into it, the cracks are there that it's like that win-loss record means nothing when you look at the opponents.
Seidel's also hovering right above 500 too. I think he was like 33-25 heading into tonight or something. Also, James, I have found the promo video. It was during All Out 2019, and it was he beat up a bunch of guys in a parking lot. So there you go. That was right before he debuted. About 2 or 3 months later. That was August 31st, according to the tweet, and he debuted November 13th on Dynamite, or probably in and around there. So
ask me who was the president before JFK, and I won't know, but this I remember.
Chad, you some Wardlow video packages where he's just like the Modelo man from those commercials. I can see that. That's Wardlow's single career right there.
Chad, I believe you wanted to hop in there for a second.
Oh, I was just gonna say I agree with Danny. Matt Seidel has become quite the jobber, but it is still refreshing to see him though.
But he's also like almost. I don't like calling him a jobber, but he's definitely like he's a bit of a gatekeeper. A bit of a gatekeeper. He
hasn't won a TV match. He loses to everyone on TV.
I mean, fair. I guess unless he's tagging with like Dante Martin or something, but. He's a respected veteran and like people know like he's good and everything. So like beating him for a guy like Dante Martin is a good leg up, to get to the next level. So, you can make fun of him all you want. It's important to have a guy like that on your show. So
on Dark and Elevation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but that's the point. That's what I'm saying, and then
I get what you're saying, Rev. It's why they signed Tony Nese. Tony Nese isn't there to be a machine on Dynamite. He's there to look good on Dark and Elevation. So when he is on Dynamite, whoever beats him, good for them. They got that little feather in their cap, I guess.
Or he makes a credible, another credible TNT contender again. Like I know he came in hot and just got his shot immediately because he was the hot free agent, but you build him back up on Dark and Elevation, and maybe he gets another shot somewhere down the road against whoever the next champ is or whatever.
I would like to speak for Danny. I think you guys are putting too much steam on Tony Nese. That is all.
We had this debate the other week. I know, James, you weren't here, but so go ahead.
He is the premier athlete. It's in the name.
Even that sounds generic.
He's going to premiere on Dark.
Haters.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of Tony Nese, I actually meant to start the show by apologizing to Danny because they were 100% right about. He was 100% right about Long Island. They cheered MJF. Fuck them.
When you're right,
They're the
right.
bad guys. They did their part. Like, I didn't know that crowds could be characters in the show, so it turns out they can, and we have a heel crowd, and that's cool. It's different, you know.
I need you guys to know. All right, so guys, I was there. I was at the Long Island AEW show. When I tell you that I was the only person that I could see for sections booing MJF. I was like, guys, why? He's the heel. He doesn't represent us. And then, like, I was like, I'm fighting, like, and then they started making comments about Punk started making comments about the Islanders, and I was like, he's right. I'm a Rangers fan. You guys suck. What's happening? It was very scary to be in enemy territory.
There was a guy in the front row in a Rangers jersey clapping for everything Punk said. And I've never felt somebody so much in my life. Oh, that was good. Yeah, Punk was complete face for me there. Shitting on Long Island, shitting on the Islanders. I was there for it.
No, Punk was a face the whole time. The crowd was heel. There's a distinction. Punk wasn't like, I'm going to be a heel tonight. No, the crowd were the heels.
Punk basically dropped that, like, Rick Sanchez line. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. He's right. He's right.
All right. So now we got all our Long Island hate out again. Let us now move on to the women's match. A grudge match between Serena Deeb and Hikara Sheeta as your resident Hikara Sheeta stan. This match was dope. I'm so glad she won. Fuck yes. This was a really good match. I almost didn't like it as much as their other two. I thought they were a bit better, but I mean, this was still a fucking banger, Danny.
It was. The finish was a little. I think the finish is why I don't like it as much as the other matches, but it was still good. They got a good amount of time, especially considering, you know, literally half the show was taken up by one match. Relative to that, this match got a decent amount of time for what was left in the show, but it was good. She got the big win. It's just nice to see a grudge match in the women's division on TV and on Dynamite specifically, because let's be real, Rampage is without a doubt slotted into the B show category. So having this on Dynamite was important, and it almost didn't matter that whether the match was good or not, because it was just this fact of having it on the show. But the match turned out to be good. Sheeta winning's the right call. Sheeta is so established, and it's just nice that, you know, the former champion is doing something.
Yeah, there was so long there where she wasn't on TV right after she lost the title. And I guess she deserves some time off. I understand. Maybe she had a couple injuries she needed to heal up, whatever. But having her back on TV is so good, because she is not only probably the most established woman there in terms of, like, you know, kayfabe, because she was the longest reigning women's champion and such. But I think she's arguably, like, the best women's wrestler on that roster, and Deeb's probably the other one. So James is making a face. I think he's considering it. She's at least in the top three, James, right?
I mean, I think we are experiencing, thankfully, an embarrassment of riches with that division right now.
True.
We're definitely in a much better place. If you told me if you told me Sheeta was your favorite, I would never say no. Or if you thought Sheeta was the best in the ring, I wouldn't say no. I think you've got Thunder Rosa, who's incredible. I think you've got Deeb, who's incredible. I think you've got Riho, who's incredible. I think Ty Conti is really climbing up there, and the Brazilian bias is showing. I think Britt Baker, I think maybe isn't as good in the ring, but I think she's got such a good handle on her character that it translates to her ring work.
And she's improved very much.
Definitely. And point being, I think no matter what, it's a good time to be a fan of women's wrestling in AEW.
I mean, you just named all those names. You left out Soho and Statlander. Like,
there you go.
Yeah, you're right. There is an embarrassment of riches. Maybe my best in the ring comment was a little short-sighted, but she's my favorite. So I'm being biased.
That's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Like I said, I would never challenge it. All I'm saying is, thank God. Look where we are.
Yeah, especially as compared to she was for a really long time. I know, like, wasn't even close, and now we just rattled off 8 to 10 women there who are almost on the same level as her. So that's a really good thing. And I think you're right, Danny, in that we need more matches like this on TV. The only other one I can think of that was even similar was when Rosa fought Britt in that Lights Out match. That was like the last Grudge match I think we saw with the women's division. So yeah, more women's feuds on TV, right, Chad?
Absolutely. I'm with Rev. I think this was probably my second favorite out of the three. That second one, damn, the first one too. Okay, scratch that. They've all been good.
Yeah, they're all really good.
They've all been good. For someone who didn't see Sheeta's reign at all, I have become an absolute Sheeta stan. I'm with you, Rev. I think she's one of the best I've seen in the ring. She's probably my favorite women's wrestler over there at this point. I'll leave it at that. The match was great. I'm glad it was on Dynamite. As Danny said, we need that representation. Women's wrestling, man.
Yeah. I feel bad almost for Rampage because they don't book it like the B show. I think there's still really good matches on there. It's just that time slot is terrible. It's the time slot of death. It's killed great shows before.
And it's pre-taped 90% of the time.
Yeah, but that doesn't bother me. I don't think it bothers me as much.
It doesn't bother me as much, but I think it kills a lot of the aura around the show.
I agree with that. And I enjoy watching Rampage. I admit I don't watch it live every Friday. I'll usually catch it later.
Yeah, same.
But I think the problem is about it being taped. If something big happens, we're going to hear about it beforehand. And if nothing big happens, we're going to know because we didn't hear about it beforehand. So we're just going to automatically think of it. Okay, I'm sure it was a nice show, but it's not important if I watch it.
And like, even compared to WWE, SmackDown is definitely the A show now. Like, that's really not even a question. Like, could you imagine it being the A show if it was still pre-taped on a Tuesday and aired on a Thursday? Like, it wouldn't be.
You're right, Danny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, back when SmackDown was pre-taped, I think it was still on Sci-Fi. I wasn't fucking watching that. Like, yeah, you're right. It was useless. But I think to your point, James, you can take a look at something like last week where when Hook debuted, Hook debuted, and the reports coming out about him afterwards were so glowing. I think a lot of people went and watched Rampage just because they heard about Hook being so good, and obviously Fuego. But but and as opposed to where I guess we'll maybe hear some reports coming out tonight, and maybe it's completely different.
Well, you can't compare it like the greatest debut in wrestling, to any average episode of Rampage. Punk's return was great and all for Rampage, but Hook's debut is obviously another level. So, yeah.
One of the things we debate on the pod, or I should say in our group chat for the pod, is who's a needle mover? And I think we found out the answer. Hook. He's not just the needle mover. He is the needle at this point. And more Hook. Make me a hooker. I'm so close to being a hooker.
You are a hooker.
I didn't think it would be possible to be funnier.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to the last match of Dynamite here. MJF versus Dante Martin for the brand spanking new Dynamite Diamond Ring. I don't know. They built it that it was new, so cool. Anyway, MJF came out, cut a very good promo beforehand, but I mean it's MJF, so of course he did. And then they actually put on a really fun match because I think MJF did a really good job of letting Dante get all his shit in. Dante is an insane athlete. Like I know MJF said that a bunch, and I'm sure everyone says that all the time, but the dude jumps like no one else I've ever seen in wrestling. His hang time is otherworldly. I mean, he glides, he hovers in the air. When he did that crossbody and that whole spot they did where MJF kept rolling out of the ring and Dante would hit and over the, move over the ropes, and then he'd go to the next side of the ring and Dante did another one. The crossbody he did over the ropes was nuts. He was up above the ropes for like 3 seconds, it felt like. So I just loved watching this match just to watch him get at MJF that way. And in the end, Ricky Starks, I guess you're going to continue that feud, and MJF doesn't win clean again. But Chad, I know you're with me in loving watching Dante Martin work like this. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. I will not take anything away from Bryan and Hangman, but fuck, Dante Martin is such a main eventer, like so early to me. His athleticism is top. Whatever the top tier is, he's over that. Like you said, he fucking floats and flies like an eagle. That shit is just amazing to see. It's what little kids are gonna dream of being and doing. It's the Rey Mysterio effect to like the 10th power. It's gonna be. He's the future. He's literally the future. I love the match. MJF with a typical great ass promo. It was good for me. I liked it.
Yeah, I think what's wild too is Dante probably wasn't supposed to be in this position initially. He was with his brother Darius, who's now still healing from his injury, and he was kind of thrust into a spot where he was working with, I think, Matt and Mike Seidel, and now he's almost in more of a singles role. Like I know he's still tagging with Leo sometimes, depending on where that whole storyline goes. But he's now like been thrust into this position because of his brother's injury, where he's not in this tag team, and he's taken to it so well.
Excelling.
Like I think he still needs a bit more work with promos and mic work and everything. But in the ring, dude looks polished as hell. So I think the sky's actually, fuck, pun fully intended. The sky's the limit for this dude, James.
I do agree. I think this is a kid that has very serious upside. I think he was thrust into a position that I don't think was originally the plan, but hey, he's taken advantage of it. It's funny because when he was teaming with his brother Darius, I preferred Darius. I thought he had the better look. I thought he had the better ring awareness. I was digging him a little bit more. And now that unfortunately he's been injured, hopefully, by the way, he's coming back soon.
Yeah, he's been backstage, I think. He showed up on like BTE or Sammy's vlog the other week, so he's around.
Yeah. And but the silver lining is Dante has gotten to shine in this time. And I'm still kind of confused what his story is. I don't know if he's with Leo Rush, and that was all a ruse on both of them against Team Taz. Clearly, Team Taz has an issue with him. Is Dante a face? Is Dante a heel? I don't know. Truth be told, I still don't know when he and Leo became faces after feuding with Matt Seidel, after he left Matt Seidel. So I think they really got to develop his character a little bit more. It seems like they're going to start doing that now with the Team Taz stuff, because God knows you can't get into a feud with Team Taz without endless microphone battles.
That's what Leo's for.
Yep. But we'll see. I think the match itself tonight with MJF, I think they both looked great. I'm disappointed that MJF won again. I know that we all now associate the diamond ring with MJF, but at this point, winning it 3 years in a row, just let that be his thing. He just has the ring. It's his ring. If you want to come up with something else, which I think we're getting there now with the Owen Hart Cup. I don't know. I think we don't need to go through this every year. Like, I thought this was going to be the year that somebody took it off him and it would have led to something with him. But regardless, it was a good match and a good way to close out the show, which some people would call trolly with what happened with the after-match shenanigans, the post-match shenanigans. But if you've been paying attention to the story, it's what I guess makes the most sense right now. Although, hey, apparently FTR is back with MJF again. Apparently the pinnacle is the pinnacle again.
Well, hey, that works for me. I completely lost my train of thought. I had a whole thing and I completely lost my train. Danny, say something because I forgot what I was going to say.
Sure. I almost suffered from the same thing, but more so because I wanted to agree with a lot of what James said. But I do think this would have been a good year for MJF to not win the Diamond Ring, but I also don't think Dante was the person to beat him for it, because it's a face with that ring. It doesn't work. It's what kind of face is carried around a diamond ring? You see someone with a high school graduation ring, they're a loser. You don't associate them with being cool. So like, you can't have a baby face wear that ring. Like you just can't do it. But the match was good. What I would say about Dante's athleticism is that when he does a move, a dive, a senton, anything over the top rope, most people, when they do that, they're going fast and they maintain their speed or even pick up speed as they dive through the ropes or over. Dante slows down. As soon as he leaves his feet, all of his momentum slows down because he has incredible hang time and insane body control when he's in the air. This match was fun. It was good. I think ultimately the right person won because, like I said, I don't think Dante Martin was the person to do it as much as I would have liked someone to beat MJF for it. But I gotta say, and this isn't anyone's fault. After an hour-long classic, like all the other matches on the show, like didn't do too much for me. There's nothing wrong with them. They were all good matches, but like I just watched like probably one of the best 3 matches of the year, hands down. And it's hard to say other matches were great when that happened, but it was a great showcase for Dante. It's a good way to groom him for having that kind of spot in the future. Now you can say he main evented a show, because you guys were saying, in what world would Dante Martin have ever main evented a Dynamite? This is unique circumstances, and Dante is very lucky. And he's making the most of it. Like James said, though, you can use some mic work, and as athletic as he is, it's good that they're slowly exposing him to the main event scene. But he does kind of need a character. I would, just by looking at him, I would describe Dante Martin as a guy in a zombie movie who got bit like 10 minutes ago and isn't sure what's going to happen to him. Like that's based on his facial expressions mainly, because he doesn't, he has like 2 facial expressions he really leans into.
God damn it. Now I can't unsee it.
I mean, it was nicer than what MJF said about him.
Yeah.
No, so what I was intending to say, and Danny, thank you, because you and James agreed on that point about MJF winning again. I don't mind. I guess now that he has it for a 3rd year, when they do it again, presumably next year, if he loses, and I kind of hope he does, it's going to be a really big deal. And maybe, depending on how long they do it, maybe Wardlow takes it from him. But I mean, that's going to be a while if they're going to slow play that for that long. a whole nother year with them together, it seems like a long time. So I don't know, maybe it ends up being where Wardlow splits before that and then ends up taking it from him. And that's like their first, real matchup against each other. Or maybe they split and MJF beats him and then Wardlow gets his revenge by getting the ring back. Who knows? I think everyone's just kind of seen this whole thing with the two of them where they tie together the Dynamite Diamond Ring, MJF and Wardlow, especially because Wardlow ends up being the guy who defends MJF the entire battle royal and then gets fucked over either by MJF telling him to leave or being eliminated by MJF himself. So maybe that's just fantasy booking, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I don't necessarily mind MJF winning it a third time. He's such a dick with it, and it plays so well into his character that I'm here for him winning it again. All right, so let's move on. Step out of AEW and the ring for a little bit because a lot happened over the last 2 weeks in terms of contracts. So it's over in WWE, excuse me. So let's get into that. Both Johnny Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly's contracts with WWE ended. They are no longer in NXT. And it was reported today from SRS, Sean Ross Sapp, that Kevin Owens has signed a multi-year deal with WWE. And allegedly, according to him, there's also not a no-cut clause in that contract. So that could be a big deal in the future. We shall see. But let's start with Gargano. Gargano was on Twitch the other day. The first time ever. He was having a good time trying to A, figure that out, and B, just very much enjoying himself. But he did mention, James, that he isn't planning on wrestling anytime soon, especially with his kid on the way.
I'm inclined to believe him. I think if we do see him wrestle anytime soon, it's going to be at something like Bola for PWG, the Battle of Los Angeles. I don't think we're going to see him sign anywhere right away, which honestly is kind of good. He's been wrestling at a high pace, at a fast pace for a very long time now. He's got a kid on the way. Enjoy your time off. And when you do land anywhere, make a bigger splash when you do so. Make people miss you, make people want you. And with so many free agents out there right now, why just debut in a wave when you could be the wave yourself? So, of course, I want more Johnny Gargano on my TV. I want Johnny wrestling somewhere. But good for him for taking this time for himself. And, when he does pop up again, whether that's somewhere new or still in WWE or whatever, it'll be a welcome sight back.
Yeah, I think he's obviously more than earned the time off. And, it's good that he's able to spend time with Candice as she's having this kid. And then hopefully he takes a little more time after that to, stay at home and help with the kid when it comes. Danny, your thoughts here?
I think that, well, one, it's nice to see Gargano having a good time and enjoying Twitch and getting ready for fatherhood. He already gives off dad vibes, so it makes sense he's about to have a kid.
Well, he already had 2 in NXT, so that's probably why.
Yeah, so he's ready for this. The kid's gonna turn out great. That sounds sarcastic, and it might be, but I hope he really takes the time to assess what he's going to do next, because he has so many options, like you guys were saying. I'd rather him not go back to WWE. If he was going back to NXT the way things were, fine, but the way NXT is now, there's not really a place for him, and there is absolutely no place for him on the main roster. We have debated this amongst ourselves many a times. Johnny Gargano will be nothing on the WWE main roster. So his best bet is to go elsewhere. That being said, I don't know how much is out there for him in terms of AEW, as much as I'd love for him to just show up there and instantly go into a match with Bryan Danielson, because I want to see that match very, very badly. So like Jim said, taking the time off and giving people time to miss you, I think is actually the best bet in his case, because all these things I just said now, all these doubts or all this pondering I'm doing about these orbs that could easily be resolved with time away and having time to miss Johnny Gargano. And then him showing up, I could be like, you know what? Forget everything I said. This is amazing. Put him in the main event. So I agree with James. Enjoy your time off and then give us time to really get excited for whenever and wherever you show up.
Hopefully he keeps doing Twitch, because it was really fun watching him nerd out over his Power Rangers. But Chad, where would you like to see him end up? Any ideas?
I am actually on the same wave. I agree with James 200%. I think now is the time. Like James said, he's been at such a high cylinder and just going with NXT for years now. Technically holding the whole company on his back. NXT, Danny, relax. He's been holding NXT on his back for years now, so I'm sure he's tired. I think now's the best time for him to reassess, readjust, sit back, enjoy his me time, his family time, everything going on, and then after that, come back firing on all cylinders. I don't know where I want to see him. I'm kind of leaning towards Danny, where I don't see a main roster fit for him. I would take him back in NXT any day, of course, but I don't see the main roster fitting for him. So I guess maybe AEW. I think somebody in the group chat said Impact. I think Impact looks really great on Gargano if he wants later on, but I don't know. Absence grows the heart fonder, so go missing for a little bit. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I think selfishly, I would like him on AEW personally, just because I watched that show and I would like to see more Johnny Gargano on my television. I really should watch Impact. I don't know.
Boo, Nick.
No.
Boo, Nick. Shush. Boo, boo, Reverend. Boo.
Yeah, boo. How dare you consider watching Impact? Boo. What are you thinking, man? Right, James? Tell him. Why would you even think about watching that? That's what James
really,
is getting at.
That really turned around on me there, didn't it?
It did. I've been enjoying Impact, by the way. I'm watching older episodes from like November.
I'll take it. I'll take it. We're moving on up.
I'm enjoying it.
Not to get sidetracked here, but I think my biggest problem with Impact is I don't enjoy the presentation. I think the wrestling's really good. I just don't like the way they present the show. That's just me. I think
understandable, though.
Yeah, maybe I just got really WWE'd for a long time, and now I'm watching AEW and I enjoy their presentation so much that I don't know, I just never even back when I would randomly flip on when it was still TNA and Bully Ray was still in there with Aces and H and shit. I don't know, I never liked their weird the camera's peeking into the locker room thing, and I don't love the commentary team. I think it's just me. The wrestling is really good. I will flatly say that, but the reason I don't really watch is I just can't really get into it because of the presentation. But,
so we watch it on mute. Solutions, Rev. Solutions.
Modern problems require modern solutions, man. Come on.
Yeah. No, I mean, what I really should do, if I had a DVR, I'd probably record it and just watch all the matches and the back, the backstage segments and just do the quick shit. But I do my best to keep up and watch the high profile matches and some of the nice backstage segments and shit. But all right, let's move on. We got sidetracked because I do want to talk about Kyle O'Reilly, despite the fact there really isn't any other news other than his contract expired, like I said. But I think everyone is assuming he's going to show up in AEW with Cole and Fish already there. And am I the only one that doesn't want him to immediately join Cole and Fish? I mean, him and Cole just had a huge feud where they literally try to murder each other. And now what? Because he switched company, all is forgiven. And then that's it. That just seems kind of dumb as hell to me. Does anyone want to back me up here?
I don't immediately want to see it, but I would like to see it. just like you said, not right now. I think he also needs to take a step back, reassess, readjust, because he's I think he's one of the wild card wrestlers where we enjoy him, but if it's too much, then it's too much. And I don't think anybody wants too much O'Reilly right now. And they've watered him down for the last year as well with me, but he has to leave though. He absolutely has to leave. He cannot stay.
Oh, he gone.
he has to. Look at me. Kyle, leave. Get out.
That spoke to me. That like I felt that. If I was ever in a position to sign a contract, you just made me not want to do it with WWE. Thank you, Chad. I will use that to segue into my opinion. I don't know how to say it without sounding bad, but I kind of just don't care.
Not where I thought that was going.
No, like I want, let's be real. Undisputed Era was probably one of the best things about NXT for the entirety of the time they were in NXT. We were all looking forward to seeing them on the main roster. I mean, granted, we were scared, but like we wanted to see what they could do on the main roster as a group, and we were robbed of that. Don't get me wrong, the start of that feud with Cole and O'Reilly was fantastic. It burned really bright in the beginning, but by the end, it just I stopped caring about it, if I'm going to be honest.
Mm-hmm. It was too much.
It went too long.
But that said, I understand the need for the continuity, and AEW has done a great job of referencing who these people were before AEW, of referencing their stories before they were in AEW. But that said, I don't want to call it a bad story, but a story nobody wanted is not something that I don't mind being retconned a little bit in another organization. You know, everyone's been very tongue-in-cheek about Kenny and the Bucks murdered Adam Cole, but like it's there, you know, it's there in the background. But hey, Adam Cole came back, and for the last few months, he's been teaming up with the Bucks. So if I can believe Adam Cole could be okay with getting murdered and coming back, I can believe that he and Kyle O'Reilly were like, yeah, we're bros. We did this before. We fought in Ring of Honor, because that's what happened. Cole and O'Reilly fought in Ring of Honor for the Ring of Honor World Championship before either man came to NXT. So I'm cool, you know, having a version of the Undisputed Era in AEW, even if it means I got to turn off a part of my brain to get there, I'm cool with it, especially if it leads to Undisputed Era versus the Elite when Kenny comes back. Like, give it to me. Give me excellent matches. I love trios matches in the first place. Give that to me. I love stables. Give that to me. And I love Kyle. I think Kyle is amazing in the ring. I want Kyle O'Reilly versus Bryan Danielson injected into my veins now. But as good as Kyle O'Reilly is, and again, let me reiterate, he's great. He works better when he's in a unit. He works better when he's bouncing off other people. Even if it's just him and Bobby Fish. Let's say Bobby Fish gets like screwed over by Adam Cole, and then Kyle O'Reilly comes in to rescue his buddy from Adam Cole. Fuck it. Give me Red Dragon. Give me that amazing tag team. So whatever it is, he needs to bounce off somebody, and he bounces off well with Adam Cole. So either way, they hinted at it tonight. They hinted at it in that segment in the beginning of the night. Cole promised a surprise for next week, or for, I think, Rampage. I don't know if it's for next week or for Rampage.
The Christmas episode of Dynamite.
Oh, gotcha. He promised a surprise. I think we're going to get a human package of Kyle O'Reilly that is going to be unwrapped, but we'll see.
I agree with Jamie Lee Curtis over here. I love Kyle O'Reilly so much. He honestly is probably my favorite of the Undisputed Era.
Me as well.
But if he comes in, he needs to just reunite with his friends, because I love Kyle, but I don't see a singles run working out too well for him in AEW, especially not to start. Later down the line, absolutely. But like James said, he has to come in and rescue Bobby Fish. But I mean it differently than James means it. I mean that is Bobby Fish's only chance at being interesting on AEW television. He needs to save this man's career. Okay, it's not just about Kyle anymore. He has the responsibility of caring for Bobby Fish. He needs to save this man's life. This fish is flopping, and Kyle needs to set him free and fix it. Okay, and it would just also be nice if Adam Cole was part of this too. But he needs to just go into this role. And hey, like with Fish has history with the Bucks, and they're a little apprehensive towards him. They're a little tense around him. Even tonight, they were like, yeah, the Super Click and Bobby Fish. They made a point to say and Bobby Fish because they're pretty much like, oh, that's your friend. Okay, cool. Like we like him too, I guess, even though he did this to us in the past. So AEW can handle that pretty well, where they, Cole and O'Reilly can be a little tense, and they might even butt heads a little bit, but ultimately they'll be a unit. And yes, ultimately, I just want to see the Elite versus Undisputed Era. And yeah, I would just like to care about Bobby Fish, for a little while. That would be so nice. And this is the only way it's going to happen. So, O'Reilly has a responsibility here.
Yeah. So James brought up the Undisputed Era, and I happen to have these in my desk drawer. Just wanted to show them off.
Why do you have two? Why do you have two?
Because I got the OG and the
you know what? That's one. Fair. That's fair.
Shout out to Harris for getting me one of those.
Just before we move on to the next free agent, can we acknowledge that Roderick's wife, Marina Shafir, is that her name? Marina?
Yeah, she wrestled Chris Statlander. Marina Shafir. Yeah.
Shafir, yeah. She wrestled Statlander on either Dark or Elevation. And then she was in the segment tonight for Ty Conti. She was who Ty was sparring with. So
when is Roddy's contract up?
He just re-signed. He re-signed, and then they fired his wife. So
yeah.
I would love for her to be.
He'll probably get fired sometime next year. So
yeah. He's the cruiserweight champion who's facing non-cruiserweights and defending it against guys way over 205. So fuck it.
He's gonna get fired.
Yeah. But I would love for her to be the fourth member of whatever this AEW Undisputed Era is going to be. Like, that's just like, they call her Roddy or something. I just give it to me.
I'm okay with that.
Man, they hate that 205 title, huh? They hate that cruiserweight title.
They hate 205 Live. That will be defunct in a year. Mark my words.
It is. It got absorbed into NXT, and now the title's on NXT.
But just watch in a year.
Well, the title is going to be defunct too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they're pushing to get rid of it.
There's a rumor. What's his name? Joe Gacy is because he's the guy who challenged Roddy for it. That he's trying to get that title renamed. And again, like this is all the story of it. It's not like the wrestler is pushing for it, but he's trying to get the title renamed and to be more inclusive, to include people who aren't below the 205 weight limit.
You know what? That gimmick is terrible, but if he gets it renamed to the Performance Center title or the PC title, that would be pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
I like Joe Gacy actually.
I think he's doing a way better job with it than the gimmick should be. I think the gimmick itself shouldn't be working, but he is doing his best to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, moving on to somebody who's not a cruiserweight, Kevin Owens, like I said, has chosen to re-sign with WWE. And again, as I mentioned, there's allegedly a no-cut clause in his contract. Now, James, I know you're selfishly upset at this, where you wanted to see him in AEW, and I think a lot of us did, but you laid out some pretty good points to us in our group chat.
Of all the guys, of all the possible people to jump ship, Owens was by far the most exciting option to me. There are a few people, before I even get to all the back stuff, I think Kevin Owens has accomplished everything there is to accomplish in WWE. He's wrestled every high caliber opponent. He's won every singles belt. No, not true. He hasn't won the WWE title, but hey, he won a world title in WWE with the Universal title. I think going to AEW would have presented so many fresh matchups. He's got a beautiful connection to the Bucks and Adam Cole with Mount Rushmore, a group from their indie days that was just incredible. And I think the on-screen character of Kevin Owens, he could have thrived in that new environment with a new talent pool, a new scenery, and quite frankly, better booking. And let me just say, Kevin Owens has been booked consistently from the moment he got to NXT to the moment that he got to the main roster. He has never spent a significant time off of TV. He has never not been involved in something. Sometimes that something is bad. Sometimes that something is stupid. And a lot of the time, he's being booked to lose, but he's always featured. But the fact that Kevin Steen, one of the scariest, best wrestlers I think you could hope for on your roster, hasn't won a title since 2017. I think that's just mind-boggling. I don't know how you fumble a guy like that. Now, granted, I just said he won everything he could win as a singles wrestler. He won everything he could win as a singles wrestler, and he did it quickly, which is a lot of WWE's problem. They get a guy who's hot, they book him, boom, 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 have him win everything right away, and then, well, I guess we just have you on contract for the next couple of years. But hey, you won a championship already. Kevin Steen deserves better than that. And going back to some behind the scenes stuff, it's been documented, and you could always, we're hearing it from sources, but Kevin Owens is the person who introduced Cody Rhodes to the Young Bucks. Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks becoming friendly, Kevin Owens telling the Young Bucks to keep an eye on Cody Rhodes is what led to Cody Rhodes joining the Bullet Club. Cody Rhodes joining the Bullet Club and their stories, their interactions, them becoming friends, led to All In. Them working together to have All In, the pay-per-view that would eventually spawn AEW. Without Kevin Owens, you can make an argument there would be no AEW in the way we know it today. To call Kevin Owens a godfather of AEW would be such an incredible way to bring him into that company. A built-in storyline of entitlement for how he debuted in NXT as the prize fighter. It all just made so much sense. That said, I've met Kevin a few times in real life, but I can't say I know Kevin. You
just feud with him.
I just feud with him. It comes from love. And it comes from a long, long time of being a fan. But I don't know Kevin's personal life. I don't know his family situation all that well. If this was the best decision he thought he should make for his family, for his wife, his children, you do you, man. Make your money. Make your money, feel comfortable, do what you think is right. And yeah, I wanted you elsewhere, but I'm going to watch you, and God willing, you win the friggin' WWE title on day one.
Because I don't keep up with WWE, everyone kept yelling about day one, and I was so confused until I realized, oh, that's a new pay-per-view. That's dumb. But yeah, I think you're right. Because I was going to mention his family too, because I was like, AEW's schedule seems a lot more flexible than WWE's. They don't run house shows like WWE does. They allow people to go home all the time. So you would think, maybe being able to stay home more would appeal to him. But, maybe WWE just backed up the Brinks truck and he couldn't say no to that. And that's hopefully, because considering that the fact that there is not a no cut clause, but hopefully that provides some stability. And I believe he's 37, if I'm not mistaken. He's on reportedly a 3-year deal. That brings him up to 40. And then after that, he can do what he wants. Dude's still in good shape. he'll be able to go that long, hopefully. So, it is what it is. And if, like you said, James, if this is what's best for his family, then so be it. So, Chad, what do you make of Kevin Owens staying in WWE?
I'm with you guys. Let's call a spade a spade. Your boy is protecting that coin. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. He's got kids, he's got a family. WWE is giving him the big bucks because, as James said, he's always included poorly, but he's always included in everything. And with that being said, I think he's being paid pretty well. Like you said, a 3-year deal pushes him to 40. Then he can start to really, count the fruits of his labor and do what he wants. But for now, I think it's just, save his account shit. But I totally agree with James. They've been booking him terribly. I didn't realize it has been 4 years since he touched gold. That's disgusting. I'm utterly disgusted. I can't even believe that. But hopefully they promised him something with the money. I hope with the coin he gets the matches that he needs for the next year or two. Because he's always interesting. It's just, they've been falling flat on getting him and his character to tell stories that I know he can tell.
I saw somebody on Square Circle refer to him as like New Jericho, where he can always do something. Like anything he does, like he'll fit into whatever part of the card you need. You need a title holder, he'll do that. You need a contender, he can do that. You need him to do some comedy shit, he can do that too. You can slot him in anywhere, and he's always legit. He's always valuable, and he always does well. And granted, that'll keep you around, but sometimes you end up with, chicken shit, as people like to say. He has to turn into chicken salad, which he tends to do. I mean, sometimes with WWE, you just can't because they are in a serious creative rut, and more. but I mean, hey, if you're going to be that valuable to the company and they're going to pay you as such, you might as well stay. So, Danny, your thoughts, please.
Okay, first and foremost, if he's just doing this for the money, I get that. I don't blame him. Totally understand that. That aside, is he always included? Because you know what he wasn't included in? WrestleMania 35. Okay? He wasn't even there. He literally went home and didn't even stay for the show. Granted, that was a special case, but I don't know. His match with Jericho at WrestleMania, I want to say 33 or 34, got bumped down from the Universal title match to a U.S. title match to put second on the show, and then Vince told him he hated the match. So, I don't know. I feel like he's not actually always included. And you know what a really good sign of being included but actually being excluded is? When they give you a talk show. Okay? Talk shows are weird. They're a weird endorsement from WWE because it's a sign that they like you and they want to have you on TV, but it's also a sign that you're not going to do anything for a long time. You're just going to host the show. You guys all love The Miz for somewhat understandable reasons, but you know what? You know how long Miz goes without having something to do because he's hosting Miz TV? A long time. You know how long Alexa Bliss went without doing a goddamn thing? Since the day she got that talk show until she turned into the Fiend. Remember the Ambrose Asylum? Yeah, that was great. Okay,
R.I.P. Mitch.
Talk shows are a weird sign. It's a sign of trust in the company, but it's also a sign that they're not trying for you anymore for X amount of time. And Owens had that. Creatively, I don't understand how you can make this decision. Bro, look how this turned out for Cesaro. He got his match with Roman, and now he's losing to Angel Garza and the guy with the dimples all on SmackDown.
Humberto?
Are you kidding me? I knew his name. I was just about.
I know.
But look how badly that's turned out. Granted, Owens has always been higher on the card than Cesaro, but unless he wins at day one, like Jim said, I'd see this as an instant mistake, automatic. 3 years isn't that long, but Also, what kind of? Sorry, Chad. Just one more second before you agree and or disagree with me, because James brought up that depressing fact that he hasn't been a champion since 2017. How are you going to call yourself a prize fighter when you haven't had a title in so long? It's depressing.
I agree with everything you said. I want to combat one thing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Edge have a talk show prior to all of his World Heavyweight Championship reigns?
Admittedly, that was like 15 years ago.
Literally,
Yeah,
I know. I really don't have much of a leg to stand on.
He brings it back sometimes.
I just wanted to throw that in there, and Jericho as well. But that's all. I get it. I agree. Talk shows are weird, and they don't usually get titles afterwards unless you're Edge or Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the flip side to the talk show is they might not have anything creatively for you in terms of like feuds, but you're still on TV. You know,
that's what I'm saying. It is you're right. It's a stamp of honor, but it's like it means you're really not going to do anything of note for a while.
Yeah,
that's
I do agree. I agree mostly.
I think I'll finish this out by saying I got to agree that like as a fan and on the creative side of things, I would have much rather see Kevin in AEW. I mean, once again, I don't watch WWE anymore, so I don't get to see him as much, and that sucks because he really is one of my favorites, which was just cemented with Team Chris and Kevin / Team Kevin and Chris. But like even back to NXT, I really loved and enjoyed his work, and not watching it as much kind of sucks. And everything James laid out, all the new matchups, all the history with the Bucks and Cole and Cody and anybody else who comes over, you know, really would have really been cool to see him interact with those guys for the first time since he went to NXT, outside of his cameo in a random episode of BTE when they were in Canada, I think, or something. Like, so, you know, it sucks selfishly as a fan, but like we said before, if that's what he's got to do is for his family, that's what he's got to do. And I don't think we have any other right to tell him otherwise. So go ahead.
One quick thing. I'm sorry.
No, please.
Because I meant to say this. I forgot it. And I just remembered it. Owens wouldn't have ever even been a world champion in WWE if Rollins or Finn Balor didn't get injured after winning the Universal title. When would Owens have been world champion in WWE if it wasn't for that?
Maybe, but that definitely catapulted him to that position at that time. So
he's only had 2 chances where he really realistically could have been, and it was that he's had 1 chance because that's with circumstances. He was not groomed to be world champion at that time. The only other time would have been WrestleMania 35, but again, you know, Kofi kind of took that over, rightfully so. But like Owens is really, without Finn Balor getting injured, probably would have never been world champion in WWE.
So depressing.
It really is. I was shocked when you said 4 years. Shocked.
No, it's something that I like. When I saw it, I needed to just really look at it. But it makes sense when you think, like, what's the last thing other than the Roman feud that he had? What's the last thing that you could say, man, that was a good story that Kevin was a part of? Maybe the stuff with Shane McMahon and Brian and Sammy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say Shane.
And like, when was that?
Fuck, I don't know. 3 WrestleManias ago. WrestleMania?
I'd say longer. 3 WrestleManias ago. So
it was 30. It was 34 where he did Shane, where he tagged Brian against Owens, or you know, he tagged Zayn against Brian and Shane.
There you go. That's kind of awful.
Yeah,
but then, I wish nothing but the best for Kevin.
Didn't they do it again? Like where Shane was heel and Kevin is face?
But not at Mania.
Yeah, it wasn't a Mania. Okay, I'm getting my matches crisscrossed. But like I think that would probably be the last meaningful one he had then, when he was face against Shane and he ran Shane out of the company, I guess.
Or no, he had his match with Rollins at WrestleMania with no crowd.
Oh yeah.
That match was, you touched on it earlier. That match was so good, but nobody will ever really care about it because it happened in front of nobody.
Yeah, it was underrated. I agree. He jumped off. I watched watching the behind the scenes one for that. I guess it was a 24 or something WWE did. And he was like, I saw the sign and I immediately thought, I'm jumping off that shit. And like he spent the next like day and a half trying to figure out how to jump off the sign onto the table. I enjoyed that. All right. Anyway, so let's move on now to some more WWE news. Jeff Hardy was released this past week in a surprise move from WWE, but there's been a lot of turmoil surrounding him. Some reports that he had perhaps started using again, whether that was drugs or alcohol, no one's really sure, and that he refused to go to rehab, and that's why WWE let him go. Jeff and his family have denied this outright. Jeff has since appeared in some videos with Matt Hardy, and I think I saw somewhere he might have appeared on Twitch. There's a lot going on here, but obviously the biggest thing is that Jeff is no longer employed, James. And considering your shirt, I figured I'd throw it to you first.
On Nick, not to question your authority, but I actually think I should go last on this one because I'm probably going to rant. And I want other people to be heard first. So I save the saddest for last.
That's fair. Since you're sad, would it cheer you up if you got to pick who went first?
Yeah, actually. Eeny, meeny, miny, Danny.
Oh God. I'm gonna approach this very gently.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to say anything. So I will say that, maybe we don't know all the details yet. So maybe we're so far off base on this story that everything I'm about to say is completely wrong. He, like you said, Jeff, or at least family of his, has denied the whole rehab thing. But this all stemmed from a week ago where during a house show in a tag match with Drew McIntyre, Hardy was visibly not all there. He tagged McIntyre in and then just tried to leave. And he tried to leave through the crowd. So it's not like he was injured or anything, because, we would know he would talk to a ref. The ref would talk to someone else, and we would pick up on this sort of thing. So something, he was not in his right mind, and again, this is speculation and correlation here, but we all remember Victory Road was 2010, 2011, whatever that was. Not gonna lie, I have a weird, it's terrible, but man, it's kind of entertaining to watch that match in a weird, fucked up way because it's kind of funny.
Like watching a car crash.
Yeah, exactly. So it was reminiscent of that, but we didn't know. And then a few days later, he's fired. Again, we don't know everything, but this is the only things we do know, so all we can do is speculate and go based on prior history. So that has led a lot of people to this conclusion. So if we've all got it wrong, Jeff, sorry. God, how dare we even think that, right? What could have possibly led us to that conclusion? But if we're wrong, sorry. If this is kind of what happened, WWE did nothing wrong here. I don't think anyone can say they did anything wrong here. They offered him rehab, he denied, and they let him go because, if he's doing stuff like that, that's pretty unprofessional and you're a liability. And if he's not on drugs, I don't understand what could have caused him to walk out. Again, if he's injured, we would have known. That would have been right away. He wouldn't get fired. There's obviously a detail here that gives the company a reason to fire him. So we could blame WWE for a lot of things, and we have, and we will continue to, but this is not one of them. All right, they upped the game of their wellness program, and I know I know there's criticism of it, and I know it doesn't apply to everyone, because Randy Orton has a job still, you know, and Randy Orton and Matt Riddle have a lot more in common than TV has you to believe. So, you know, not that there's a problem with what they do. That's totally fine. That shouldn't be part of the wellness program, but, you know, it was. So there is a lot of criticism to it, but overall, they've helped a lot of people, and they offer it to people who don't even work there anymore, which means that even Hardy being fired, it would still be available to him. So I think the company, if any of the details we're speculating are true, they're well within their rights to do so. And my biggest gripe is because ultimately, I want Jeff to get better. We all want Jeff to get better if he does need the help again, because again, we don't know. But I'm kind of assuming here. That being said, you can't be a wrestler anymore. You can't do this. Like, it's not, well, you can't do most jobs under these circumstances, but you can't do this job under these circumstances because you have other people's lives in your hands, and it's so much more than like a normal office job or whatever. Like, there's so much that goes into it, you know, like to use a quote that James hears in his life all the time: if this is how you're going to be, you'll never make it in this town, kid, even though Jeff Hardy's already made it in this town. But you know what I mean? I wouldn't hire him back. And I know companies will hire him because he's Jeff Hardy, he's a name, and we all love him. We all grew up as kids and loved him. And like I told you guys, my original like screen name on AIM when I was like 10 years old was Hardy Boys 1023. Don't message me, please. I won't answer. But I love Jeff Hardy. I don't love him anymore. I've grown out of that. Like, I'm past that phase of my life. But like, I still like Jeff Hardy, but like, I don't get that excitement anymore. Like, it you know, it's whatever. Him being there is just kind of whatever to me at this point. But like, why would I hire him in AEW? Like, if he's a liability, it's a car crash waiting to happen. And again, we all hope he gets better. I hope he gets better. But like, I feel like you've crossed the line too many times, and there has to be some sort of consequences. We can't just be like, hey, you need, like, oh yeah, welcome back with open arms. Everything's cool. Throw piss in Sheamus's face again. It's all good. Like, I don't know. And I'm saying all this, and every company is going to offer him a fucking contract, but I wish they would be a little more hesitant about it. I could keep going, honestly. I feel like I'm going to balance out a lot of what James is going to say, but I don't want to. If James is going to go on for a long time, I don't want to keep going.
All right, well, I would like to note that the detail about Hardy reportedly refusing rehab also came from Sean Ross Sapp. So it's a fairly credible report. But I do think you're right, Danny. It does feel like we're missing something here. Like, there's definitely something, because I'm sure James is going to touch on a lot of this. Matt and Reba tend to not want to, but they're pretty done with Jeff's shit, to put it indelicately, and they're back together and hanging out. So, but I'm sure James will get more into that when he goes. But Chad, would you like to say your piece here?
Absolutely. I like to start with whatever Jeff is actually going through. I mean, we all know his history, and we've seen repeated patterns from this guy forever, of course. But the fan in me has to reach out and just say, Jeff, like, we wish you well beyond measure. Whatever's going on with you, I hope it's not what it has been, but if it is, we wish you love and light. I think, as we've said with some of the other recent people let go or quitting or whatever, I think he also needs to excuse me, readjust and reassess everything, and then from there make a plan and go about it. The little kid in me, of course, is super sad because I'm a Hardy Boys fan. I've always been. And I feel like this right here, this run even if it didn't mean that much to the higher ups in the WWE, I felt like this run meant the most to the fans because even though he wasn't doing as much as we wanted him to, he still, every time he overcomes, I think it's just always a great story. And then the fans automatically leech and attach to him. But I'm with Danny. You can't give 10 warnings and then on the 11th say, hey, maybe we'll keep you even if you don't follow the rules. If that's what it is, then he does have to go. He has to figure his situation out. He has to readjust, reassess, and he has to come back stronger. But the only way he can do that is if he wants to do that. Selfishly, of course, I would say if he were Samoan, this wouldn't have happened. But
I can't believe I didn't make that joke.
listen, all I'm saying is somebody who's related to Roman who has a substance abuse problem is a champion.
Hell yeah, fire him.
But not everyone's getting written up and fired.
We don't need him. We got the right hand man. We don't need the left hand. Exactly, Chad. I'm with you.
And then also, isn't it the least popular Uso that has the problem? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going on a tangent.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't start that.
He's the one. He's the one who was not in the title picture and hurt. You were already on the shelf. But anyway, back to Jeff.
I know we're getting our jokes off here, but
jokes.
To just to differentiate between the two here, those did happen out of the Usos' problems happened out of the ring. Jeff's problems allegedly are affecting him in the ring.
That is the only reason why I allow Danny to come down on Jeff as hard as he did. Because I agree.
Because
he is a liability.
To make a connection to the two, yeah, one's in the ring, the other's in a car, which a lot of people die that way.
It's still very, very bad, but that's not WWE's purview. I mean, I guess we're kind of arguing, I don't want to say semantics here, but we're like, all right, where does their
they're two different things.
End?
A liability is a liability, but I get what you mean.
Yes, but yes, Jeff's liability is in the ring.
It is.
And that's within WWE's purview to the fullest extent. And if he's going to be in there threatening the health and safety of their other employees, then unfortunately Jeff can't be there. But now, even though we give WWE shit, I must admit, as polished and grand and huge as they've been, we just getting the crowds back and we're just trying to get back to normal as they've taken safety in mind and how everything's been going. I get it. I really do. I get it. Now, James, I know there's a lot you want to say here, so please, the floor is yours.
Look, there are two ways of discussing what's going on with Jeff and with WWE and what we move on from. We have the facts and we have our speculation. The facts are something weird happened at a show that Jeff was a part of. Jeff acted in a way that at this point we can't explain, but something happened. Jeff got released, and for the next 90 days, Jeff cannot sign anywhere. Now, let me say, I have been a Jeff Hardy fan for 20 years now. I was a little kid who thought he was the coolest guy in the world when he fought The Undertaker in a ladder match for the Undisputed title. I was a teenager when he won the WWE title in a triple threat from Edge and Triple H. And I was there when he and his brother Matt returned to WWE at WrestleMania to probably the loudest pop I've ever experienced live in any scenario, in any setting. Jeff Hardy means a lot to me. I've met Jeff and his brother several times. I've gotten to speak to Jeff personally on a couple of occasions. And I could say, if it wasn't for Jeff Hardy, I don't know if James Gisante would have made it out of his teenage years. He really helped an awkward kid feel like it's okay to be different. And it also helped an awkward kid realize that it's okay to screw up as long as you try to get back up and you try to better yourself. Now, Jeff has been battling these demons for, at this point, almost 20 years, if not longer. Jeff has battled substance abuse issues. Jeff has battled alcohol issues. And we've hit rock bottom with Jeff a couple of times. Danny, you mentioned it. 2011 Victory Road is one of the hardest things a Jeff Hardy fan or someone who cares about Jeff could ever watch. And I wish I could say it was the last time he screwed up, and it's been good all this time since then, but that's not true. Jeff Hardy has had multiple instances of falling off the wagon. And look, we talked about it with Jon Moxley. Addiction is a disease. And at the end of the day, we just want what's best for these guys. We don't care. Like, of course, we want to see them in the ring or entertain us in some way. But what's more important is who they are and that they are able to find the help that they need. I would love to see Jeff Hardy reunited with his brother, Matt, in AEW and get one last run as a tag team. That said, that's not more important than Jeff Hardy making sure he's right, making sure that he's okay, and making sure that anything he's going through is settled. And who knows, maybe Jeff goes to rehab, which he turned down with WWE because he said he didn't need it. That's what Matt said. That's what they discussed. That's what's been out there in the public. Matt Hardy has gone on record saying that he believes that when the drug test does come in, which Jeff apparently took, there is a drug test that we are awaiting the results on, that when we get those results, Jeff will come back clean. Matt has gone on record saying Jeff has not been taking any pills and that Jeff has not been drinking alcohol. And I know the first thought is, well, of course, Matt Hardy is going to defend his brother, Jeff. Of course, Matt is going to do whatever he needs to protect his brother's image. But Matt has gone on record in the past condemning when Jeff screws up, saying Jeff is his own keeper. I'm not his keeper. When Jeff screws up, Matt at this point has made sure Jeff is responsible for Jeff. And more importantly, and Nick, you touched on this, Rebby Hardy, Matt's wife, has been, let's just say, very outspoken over the years about many things. And one of them is Jeff Hardy. When Jeff screws up, Rebby does not hold back. She does not defend him. She does not protect him. Rebby is one of the first people to criticize Jeff when Jeff screws up. And the fact that Rebby Hardy let her 3 children interact with Jeff less than a week after this situation makes me believe that we don't know everything that's going on. Matt said he doesn't think WWE made the right choice in firing Jeff, that they're going to find out that maybe they jumped the gun on releasing him. Jeff looked level-headed when he was in that segment with Matt on Twitch. Now, granted, days had passed in between. Maybe he had sobered up. But a lot of things aren't really connecting here. And that's what makes this story so interesting. More than anything, as we've said, Jeff's health is what matters most. There's been some discussion that's been debunked that Jeff did this as a ploy to get out of his contract with WWE. I think that's ridiculous. This is a man who stayed with Impact Wrestling years longer than he should have when a WWE invitation was there on the table, simply because TNA Impact did him right after the 2011 Victory Road incident. They helped him with rehab and they helped get him right, and Jeff paid that back. I don't see this being a guy who's looking to weasel out of a contract. even if it is with WWE. I don't know what's going on with Jeff Hardy, so I'm not going to condemn Jeff Hardy yet. And I don't think anybody here has condemned Jeff Hardy. But I want to make sure Jeff is okay. I want to know what's going to go on with this drug test with the results. Not that that's any of my business, but I do want to know if Jeff is clean. And if he is clean, I need some understanding of what the hell happened. Because at this point, what the hell happened?
Yeah, see, I didn't know about the drug test, and you bring that up is literally has me. If this comes back clean, like, what the fuck? Like, that's even almost scarier to me. Is like, okay, if you weren't on drugs, then what was going on there? Like, I don't understand.
There are so many question marks here, and let's operate under the assumption that Jeff wasn't on anything. Let's say Jeff was clean. What if something caused that to happen? That's just as scary, and that's just as alarming, and that's just as much of a liability to WWE. Maybe I wouldn't have fired him as fast. Maybe I would have figured out a way to make this work, but something needed to be done.
Yeah, you start looking at that. Sorry, James, and you wonder maybe if that's like, something's wrong with his brain, whether it's concussion or otherwise, and you start, I mean, not to take things to the worst possible angle, but if you're just gonna like tag out and walk out for no apparent reason, like that's where my head goes. It's like, is he okay mentally?
So we'll see what happens from here. Like I said, Jeff Hardy can't go anywhere until March. AEW is in a very interesting position now because let's all be honest, that's the alternative. It's either Jeff Hardy hangs up his boots forever or Jeff Hardy goes to AEW. AEW has never had a situation like this before. They've never had a wrestler who is extremely popular, has connections to the roster, and can still go. Jeff Hardy's 44. He can't go the way he could 5 years ago, but he could still go. He could still put on a watchable match. This is somebody that a lot of people would love to see happen. This is somebody a lot of people would love to see move to AEW. People were calling for it before this incident happened. But this is also the first time that you have this level of star, but also comes with a lot of baggage. That's up to AEW to decide if that's worth taking on. And who knows, maybe in the next few weeks, next few months, more will come out about this story that will justify that decision one way or the other. But for me, as somebody who has idolized Jeff Hardy since I was a child, all I care about is Jeff Hardy, the person, being okay. And I know we're small, but if somehow this gets out to Jeff Hardy, thank you for years of doing what you've done. Thank you for years of being important to so many people. And I hope everything's okay. And yeah, I hope that was fair. I hope that wasn't too biased, guys, but I think we need to wait a little bit longer before we decide how the next chapter for Jeff Hardy is written.
No, James, I think that was very fair and poignant, and thank you. And I think that should be the last word we're going to have on that for now. So not really an easy transition out of that, but we will try. And it's not to any less or any happier news, but we would now like to discuss the incident that happened at an indie show down in Texas involving the wrestler known as Hannibal or Blood Hunter, depending on what moniker he's using at that show. He had a match against Carlito, I believe it was over the weekend, where there was reportedly, based off of Reddit comments from people both involved in the match and as I'll soon say, the victim in this whole thing. Excuse me. Hannibal was supposed to have a spot after his match where he was supposed to attack a referee who was in on it, and the referee was supposed to blade. This was part of the show. The other referee in the match, who ref the actual match, said in his Reddit comment that Hannibal seemed almost drunk, that he had been hiding out in his trailer the entire time before the match. No one could find him, and that he came to the match apparently inebriated. The referee mentioned this to Carlito. They finished the match quickly, and then the post-match shenanigans occurred. But again, allegedly, when this third referee was unable to blade, Hannibal took matters into his own hands, and the spike he was using as a prop began to stab that into the head of the referee. The referee was also allegedly choked unconscious. There was a lot of blood loss from this referee. He had to go to the hospital. Reports where he almost died due to blood loss. He also had to have his head stapled in a lot. I forget the number. He is now thankfully okay, but this is a serious situation here. Apparently, the police were called, statements were given. People are calling for him to be arrested for assault, possibly even attempted murder. A lot of people are calling him to be banned from working anywhere in wrestling again. This is just a shit show. So I'm going to go to James. James, we're going to you this time on first, because you're probably going to be a bit more delicate than other people on this podcast. So I would like your thoughts here.
Well, I'll be as delicate as I can be. And let me say, if all the reports are true, fuck Hannibal. And I hope that was delicate enough for him. Look, again, you said it. We don't know the full story. We're hearing about it through Reddit comments and reportings of some people that were there. It sounds like a guy who either got frustrated and needed to get his spot in and took it way too far, or it's a guy who was under the influence of a substance and didn't know how to handle himself. Either way, this is somebody who directly injured somebody else in the ring with a genuine weapon, and it went on for far, far too long. I don't really know much about Hannibal. This is really the first I'm hearing about him. Other stories that I've looked into since have shown that he doesn't have the greatest track record. But yeah, the referee's account, the official match referee's account of what had happened, indicates that he could tell right out the gate that he was not in good shape, and he told his opponent Carlito to wrap it up as fast as possible. And the ref who was on the receiving end of the spike attack, I think he missed his spot with a blade job, and it just all fell apart from there. And you see multiple people getting involved, multiple people dealing with the situation. Either way, this was reportedly a family show. This was not a like adult wrestling show. This was meant to be a family-friendly wrestling show, and this is not what you want to see at any event, let alone something that's geared towards kids. So if the reports are true, fuck him. I hope he does get blacklisted. I hope he does get pushed out. But yeah, I don't even know how. Like, this is such a bizarre story, and God willing, the referee is able to get out of this relatively okay.
Yeah, and I mean, not to kick it right back to you, James, but I believe there was also a report that Kevin Sullivan is Hannibal's manager, and he was telling the match official to kayfabe the refs to help him get out of it.
No, not kayfabe the refs.
Oh, excuse me, not kayfabe. Excuse me, kayfabe the police.
Yes, he wanted the ref to. He wanted the ref to lie to the cops to get his guy out of trouble. And thankfully, that ref did not do that. Now, so far, there has been no, I believe, official charges against Hannibal. But I think as more and more comes out, I think it's only a matter of time before we see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the police are doing their due diligence before making any arrests.
Of course.
You don't necessarily just arrest people on the spot all the time. I don't know, Chad. I don't know if you saw this video, Chad. It was up on Reddit. I think it bounced around Twitter a bit. It's gnarly. So
I made sure that I didn't watch the video in full. I watched enough to grasp what was going on, just so that I could speak about it because we are a wrestling podcast. But literally, people who are not wrestling fans, people who just know that I like wrestling, I've had this video sent to me probably a record number of whopping like 20 times at least, texting me this. And I still don't think I can totally wrap my mind around it. It's such a shit show and bizarre that it's mind bending. I'm like, what the fuck? I agree with James. Like, fuck you. How dare you shed such a negative and terrible light on the fucking craft that we're most passionate about? Like, this wrestling is for kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, first and foremost, before it even gets to us, the marks and the adults, most of us have fell in love with wrestling as children. With that being said, like, no decorum, no couth. This is disgusting. Lock them up. If it happened the way it did. I mean, could it have happened any other way though? Lock them up anyway.
I mean, it's on tape, and as far as I could tell, this referee didn't agree to be stabbed in the head 6 to 10 times. So it's
obviously not fake. I don't know. Like, we like our violence, but this is not it. This is not the answer. I'm disgusted.
Yeah, Chad, I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of speechless too. This is a bad situation. I mean, I've seen multiple angles of this. There was the original one that came out where it's perspective of somebody in the crowd on the side, and it's very grainy and choppy. You can't see too much, and that was bad. And then I saw another angle where you could actually see this guy stabbing this referee, and it's ugly. So, Danny, your thoughts, please.
I'd like to echo what James said that I totally listened to. Fuck Hannibal. I really want to make a lot of jokes about attempted murder. But I just don't know this guy enough to do that. So, like, he's kind of, I can't even get like a little bit of twisted joy out of this because this low life just straight up tried to kill a guy, and it's very upsetting. But I've threatened to fight multiple people now on this podcast, but I'm not going to do that in this case. I'll still fight Miz any day of the week. Miz is the least intimidating person I've ever seen in my life. But Chavo, I said some shit and he'd probably kick my ass, but I'd still fight him. I'm not trying to get stabbed though, so I think I'll let James fight him. You started the fuck Hannibal train, and you are the conductor here, buddy. So, you know what, Hannibal? Meet James in the Chili's parking lot. He'll kick your ass. All right, he's the John Cena guy. He's not afraid of you. Are you kidding me? He has some moves, I assume. I think in theory he has some moves. So bring whatever weapon you want. Meet him in the Chili's parking lot after school at 3 p.m. It's going down.
And that, boys and girls, is why I went to Danny last. All right. Well, since Danny is completely made a mockery of all this. Let's try to move to some lighter things here. James, I know you very much want to discuss Ring of Honor's final battle, so I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to go ahead and do it. Say whatever the hell you want.
I'll try to keep it quick. Ring of Honor final battle ushered in the end of an era for a company that has been so influential on the professional wrestling landscape for the last 20 years. We saw video we saw the return of many wrestlers in video thank yous, going from Bryan Danielson to CM Punk. So many people who are so important to the wrestling scene now got their start in Ring of Honor, or at the very least got very big in Ring of Honor. So it was really nice to see the past come back to celebrate that. The show itself, it went out with pretty much without a hitch. Well, I take that back, actually. The scheduled main event, which was supposed to be Jonathan Gresham versus Bandito, the Ring of Honor champion for the Ring of Honor championship, had to be canceled due to the fact that Bandito tested positive for COVID a few days prior to the event, after going down to Mexico for Triple Mania. Their replacement for Bandito was Ring of Honor, a former Ring of Honor superstar, current AEW wrestler Jay Lethal, who for almost a decade carried Ring of Honor on his back. Jonathan Gresham finally becoming Ring of Honor champion, winning the original Ring of Honor championship belt. It was a very good feel-good moment, and we don't know what's going to come out of Ring of Honor's hiatus. We don't know how they're going to return, or even if they definitively are going to return. But Jonathan Gresham is the perfect man to usher out the end of this era of Ring of Honor. And whether he signs elsewhere or whether he just stays loyal to Ring of Honor and travels with them for their shows or just carries that belt throughout the indies, he is a fine superstar to carry on the legacy of Ring of Honor. Beyond that, there were a couple of other surprises. We saw the debut of the Titan, Adam Scherr, formerly known as Braun Strowman, teaming with former WWE superstar and Impact superstar EC3 and Wesley Blake and somebody we don't know. So, hey, Adam Scherr, the Titan, made his first appearance somewhere outside of a WWE ring, and it wasn't an indie. So that's interesting. I think the most exciting thing to come, and we'll see where this goes, was that after the Briscoe brothers, a team that has been with Ring of Honor since the beginning and have never left Ring of Honor, won the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships one more time. They were confronted by a very exciting team, FTR. This has been a dream tag match for a long time. A lot of people have been wanting to see this happen. FTR has been teasing it. The Briscoes have been teasing it. And to see FTR in a Ring of Honor ring with the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, I think it's just a matter of time before we see the Briscoes in AEW. Hey, they straight up challenged Tony Khan to do it. They almost dared him to sign them. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's just a matter of time before we see a lot of Ring of Honor talent debut in AEW or elsewhere. But one guy who we can confirm will be with AEW, he signed his contract today, Brody King. So we'll see what happens, but the future and legacy of Ring of Honor are tied to these wrestlers, and where they go next will be hopefully very promising.
James with the very sneaky Brody King tease there after the Malachi Black tease. I almost said Alistair again. The Malachi Black vignette on Dynamite tonight. I do want to end with a couple of last things. One, Shibata announced his return at, I believe, Wrestle Kingdom. Right, James? Is he coming back at Wrestle Kingdom?
That is the plan. For night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom, Shibata will be making his long hoped for return after a grave injury that we didn't think he'd ever be able to return from. So this is very exciting news for the Japanese fans, or just the fans of the Japanese superstar. And I'm very excited to see him kick people's heads in.
Yeah, there's 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. That's news to me. There only used to be 2. Geez, that show gets bigger every year.
Well, this year's night 3 is going to be a super show with Noah.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, so I'm here for it. And then I would just like to say rest in peace to Wrestle with the Plot. Thanks for ruining that, everybody. It was a good time, but it's over now. So, guess you're gonna have to pay for all your shit now, you idiots. I guess that about wraps things up here for all of us. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe please like the video and subscribe to our channel, as James still has his head in his hands. And he's going to put them right back on his face after I remind everybody that once we reach 100 subscribers, James will rap for us. So please subscribe to the Mark It Down podcast. Hit us up on all the socials. They will be in the description below. And once again, pop up above one of my shoulders. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody enjoys their weekend, and we'll see you next time here on the Mark It Down podcast.